In this video, we're going to make a convolutional neural network that can actually do handwritten digit recognition. We'll download the MNIST handwriting data, and then we'll build up a convolutional neural network graph and code so you can visualize what's going on. We'll go deep by adding layers, and then we'll see our friend logistic regression return as an output, and then finally run our model and predict classification of handwriting digits. We'll start up with some code here, again using NumPy and matplotlib in order to draw a graph with network X. We're going to visualize a convolutional neural network and draw it in code. The main idea here, compared to the graphs we looked at before, is that not every node is connected. A convolutional neural network is locally connected, as opposed to a densely connected network where every node is connected to every other. So the interesting part we have working here is a window, which is a kernel parameter that we use to only connect some inputs to some activations. And so we're going to work with a kernel of 3, so only a 3-wide slot of our network will be connected to the next layer. So we'll have at most 3 connections to each activation. So as we loop through and enumerate a window, a 3-wide window on each one of the inputs, we add an edge from input to the activation. And then we do it finally densely connected to the output. So you can see here any given node has 3 inputs, but any given output node, where it's densely connected to the output, has all 5 inputs run through. And that's just a simple version of it. So now let's look at this in 2 dimensions. We'll actually generate hashes that correspond to pixels and then put them into essentially a grid so that it looks a bit like an image. And you can see the effect of what convolution does with a little bit more realistic data. So you can see our pixel array here, and we're going to be running with a range of 3 pixels. And we go ahead and draw the graph as we did before. So you can actually see the lines going from that patch in the lower left down to 1 node of activation on the right. And this is the power of convolutional neural networks. What makes them work is they connect less nodes, less parameters, so they run faster. All right, now let's actually apply convolutional neural networks to a real machine learning model. We're going to be using Keras, which has a built-in ability to download the MNIST digits, and we're going to bring in a set of predefined layers and build them up into a deep neural network layered model. We're going to be using the sequential type of model, which basically means you actually stack the layers together end to end. Keras is actually great because it's relatively simple, uses TensorFlow under the hood, and has predefined data. So here we can say we got 60,000 images that are 28 by 28 pixels apiece. Now we still need to do a tiny bit of data prep, meaning normalizing the values on the range of 0 to 1. This definitely helps the model learn faster, and for fun, you can actually take out the divide by NP max to actually see how poorly machine learning does when you don't normalize the data. And we're also going to need to reshape. Now this is mostly just about meeting Keras' expectations. So that expand dims call we have there is actually setting up for convolutional layers with 3-dimensional data, X, Y, and color. Even though we only have grayscale, we add that additional dimension because the convolutional layers actually look for that 4th dimension of color, so we just need to have it available. And now for our training labels, we're going to take a look at them. And again, you can see they are individual digit numbers from 0 to 9. And we need to do these as categorical labels, or one-hot encoding, so you can see the 5th position in the array matches the 5 above. We've got our data set up out of the way. Let's go ahead and start building the network. We take a look at our input shape. So we actually look at a simple sample from the input. An individual image that's 2828.1 is the input shape, and a number of classes, the 10 digits we're looking for, and start up building a sequential model. There's a bunch of different things going on here, but it really just runs end-to-end like a linear stack of layers. You can see we initially are starting off with a 2D convolution with a kernel size of 3, 3, which is really a 3 by 3 patch out of the image, activated by the ReLU function, which then moves the math along into the next convolution, again activated by the ReLU function. So we take a convolution and a convolution, looking at a 3 by 3 patch, squishing it down to a single pixel, and then looking at another 3 by 3 patch. And then we introduce a concept max pooling 2D. Now, what this actually does is it looks for the strongest outputs from the prior 3 by 3 patch and crushes that down to a 2 by 2 patch. So it actually attenuates or stretches out the image into making a smaller sampling set. And then we use dropout. Now, dropout is a technique that you use in order to prevent overfitting your model so that it's more accurate on unseen data, so it doesn't just memorize what's going on. And then, all importantly, we flatten. So we had a 2-dimensional image, but we have a 1-dimensional output, just a single digit code. So we use flatten in order to make the shapes line up. And then we finally do another bit of dropout to avoid overfitting. And then here in the end, a dense layer with softmax. This is our logistic regression we looked at before. We're turning the output labels into a set of probabilities. Let's go ahead and do model summary so we can actually see the shape of this thing. This is actually a great way to debug and visualize what you're doing. So you can actually see the first two convolutional layers bring down the shape of the model and have far less parameters than the final dense output. This is the real trick with convolution. It actually uses a lot less parameters so it can learn faster, and with less parameters is slightly less prone to overfitting than a fully dense neural network. And now with the model assembled, we can go ahead and compile it, which prepares it for execution, and then fit it using the training data and labels to learn all the parameters and then make predictions, so we can actually then see how well our model works. We have categorical cross entropy as a loss, which you should generally use for classification. Atom is the optimizer, and then accuracy is a metric. We'll do 64 batch size, 8 epochs, and give it a run. Now you can actually see it start to run here, and it's going to take a little bit of time. I'm actually running this on my CPU rather than a GPU. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of time lapse on the video so we don't have to watch this run in real time. Machine learning always involves a decent amount of human weighting, and for a real model, if you're actually trying to learn across a large amount of data, you'd very likely want to use GPU capability in order to speed this up quite a bit, and even consider running this across a cluster of machines. But for this toy model, the CPU will get it done, and then we can take a look at our outputs. So now our model's all trained, we're actually going to take our test data and predict the classes and get a set of predictions, and then run a classification report so we can see how well we did for each kind of digit. So you can actually see it's pretty good. It has 99% precision and 99% recall for an overall F score of 99, and its ability to predict is evenly distributed. All right, in summary, we learned about the fundamentals of neural networks, including dense connections. We learned how to train deep neural networks and got a sense as to how forward propagation, backward propagation, and stochastic gradient descent works by looking at some simple models. Then we introduced ourselves to logistic regression and softmax as a final output layer that we're going to use in most all of our neural networks that classify. And then we tied all this together with defining and training a convolutional neural network to recognize handwritten digits and numbers using the MNIST database, which is the great hello world of machine learning and a great place to start. Now in the next section, we're going to look at deep models with MXNet and TensorFlow and compare those two frameworks.